Hi, everyone. Great to have you back for our last Ready to Roll webinar. This webinar will center around makeup, hair, and wardrobe, and it will also include a vendor spotlight. Vendors include Series Grip and Electric, Red Star, DC Camera, and Plus One Rentals. They will let us know about their new checkout procedures, how to handle last-minute set deliveries, and their new disinfection procedures. After that, we will have our main discussion with makeup, hair, and wardrobe. Our guests include a makeup artist and wardrobe stylist. Both have been working in California the past few weeks. Our hope is that this discussion will help inform artists as well as talent on what to expect when you return to set. Today's departmental Zoom meeting is at 1:30 p.m. Zoom meetings are open discussions with a departmental specific moderator. The link to the Zoom meeting is on DC Camera and Surviving the DMV Film Shutdown Facebook pages. Today's Zoom meeting will be with makeup, hair, and wardrobe. We welcome everyone to tune in. Sherry Brumlett will be moderating. Thank you, Sherry. After today, all webinars and departmental Zoom meetings will be archived on DC Camera's YouTube channel. We encourage everyone to watch them. There is a lot of useful information that we've collected over the past 6 weeks. Hi, Lindsey.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us. So let's get things rolling with our vendor spotlight. Our guests are Dan Stack, Series Grip and Electric, Gabe Torres, Red Star, which was formerly the Washington Source, Erich Roland, DC Camera, and Adam Henricksen, Plus One Rentals. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. So I would like to start with Erich. First off, Erich, thank you so much for sponsoring all these webinars, and also Kyle for editing and uploading everything onto your YouTube channel. Really appreciate that. So Erich, tell us what DC Camera's been up to. Please fill us in with your new checkout procedures, disinfection practices, any other useful information.
Well, things have been, picking up slowly after being, quite dead for a couple of months, but it's headed in a decent direction, and hopefully the new uptick in coronaviruses is not going to turn it back down again. We'll see. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle, who's runs the back and operations and is in charge of all the new procedures back there. So Kyle, I'll pass it off to you, buddy.
No problem. So a lot of what we're doing is pretty much what every rental house is doing. We've got the social distancing on workspaces. We've got, whenever it's a nice day, we've got air circulation going, make sure we have the garage door open. Everyone's here wearing masks. We require all clients that come in to wear masks. We've got PPE like gloves, available for whoever needs them at checkout days for the techs. Whenever for preps, whenever people are handing gear back and forth, since that's the most likely to be where something's going to happen, we set up carts so that way whenever the client needs something, we'll set it on the cart, let them take it so we're not, accidentally touching each other's hands. We've got hand sanitizer just in case something happens. Inevitably, there'll be a moment during a prep where someone, needs a tech's attention, like, hey, can you come over and just check this thing out on the camera? So they'll step away. The tech will do their thing after using hand sanitizer. After that's all done, tech will step away, client can come back and deal with the camera equipment. But yeah, as far as pickups go, we don't let any clients who aren't prepping back into the main warehouse area. They're staying over at the loading dock. And that is most of it. I believe we're still waiting on getting a fogger here shortly so that we can, at the end of the day, spray all this stuff down. But all these cases are getting cleaned. All the electronics are getting cleaned with the appropriate disinfection solutions.
Great. That sounds wonderful.
You want to talk about the different, I mean, we've got like 3 or 4 different solutions for disinfecting things.
Yeah, sure. So for surfaces where we can, leave it for 10 plus minutes, we do have bleach. We try to stay away from using that on most things. We do have, 70% plus isopropyl. We've got stearamine that we end up using for a lot of the G&E equipment, so C-stands, et cetera. We'll just spray that down with a little Hudson sprayer, let that sit for 3 minutes plus. Those are the main things that we have. We also have ethyl alcohol for some of our just hard surfaces like tables and such that we rub down twice a day. But yeah, those are the main ones.
Great, thanks. So Dan Stack, what's going on at Sirius?
Hi, we're in a very similar boat to DC Camera. I guess fortunately we don't have the need for people to be coming in and doing checkouts, so we don't have the same sort of foot traffic. But we're in the very same boat. We have a couple different things we do on different equipment depending on if we can spray it with a disinfectant fogger that we have. That's sort of our go-to. We have a disinfection supply company fogger and a generator, a disinfectant generator. It kind of looks like a Brita filter that you pour rock salt into, and it makes I think it's called hydrochlorous or hypochloric acid. Yeah.
If anybody's curious of that, go to the second webinar where we had Liberty Burnell, who's with the disinfection supply company. So if you want to know what we're talking about with the disinfection generator and the foggers, I would refer everybody to the second webinar.
Yeah, so it kind of looks like a hazer. It's handheld. We can walk around and spray down. We'll line up all our stands and stuff that's not porous and spray it down with that. Things like lights that are liquid sensitive, we have just a good old Clorox spray and paper towels. We've exhausted our supply of Clorox and Lysol wipes, but the stuff that is sensitive we wipe down by hand. And we also use the disinfectant fogger in the cabs of trucks and inside the working spaces before and after shoots. Our preference, when it's possible, is to just use natural disinfecting, let stuff sit for 72 hours. And we're keeping foot traffic in the shop at a minimum. Everyone who's picking up or dropping off drops off like outside on our dock. We have all the doors and windows open, fans going. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Seems to be, it's disruptive, but it's not shutting us down as things pick up. It's not, killing everything, taking more time.
Great. Gabe, what's going on in DC?
It's pretty much the same thing. As far as, we've been slowly picking up. It was a lot of nothing for a while. And kind of during that time, we spent a lot of time, going through our warehouse, making sure everything was clean, which we're still doing. There's a lot of stuff to do. But just making sure that everything is, disinfected. As far as the procedures and stuff that we're doing here, pretty much the same thing as far as using, the cleaning solution to clean stuff, particularly, focusing on everything as well as the most handled areas of the lights or the stands or something that like the handles that you're going to get a lot of people touching. And we do also have UV lights that we are using to disinfect. So we'll use the UV lights for, that's kind of like the first, as soon as stuff gets back in, that's kind of like the first cleaning that we do. Then after that, it's the you know, as we're checking stuff in, we're cleaning everything and putting everything, you know, back on the shelf. So it's a lot easier to not have to do it twice, going, you know, in and out of the shop. But we do make sure everything is clean that goes out. And let's see, the same thing. We have the fans going here. You know, everyone's wearing their masks. We don't have the foot traffic also, as far as like people coming in and loading up trucks or anything like that. It's just us here doing that. So as far as clients coming in, we also have very limited interaction with them. They all wear masks, as well as we do. Sorry about the phone. And we ask that they load up and unload their own personal vehicles, and we let them know before they come to the shop that that is the case, so that they're prepared. Oh, we gotta, sorry. So that they are prepared.
Hi, George.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also have an electrostatic sprayer that we use for the equipment as well. Yeah, but we're pretty much, you know, same as everyone else, you know, getting all the equipment, you know, as clean as we can, getting everything disinfected, you know, as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it. It makes it a little bit hard with clients who want to act as if nothing is different nowadays and they need something tomorrow. But yeah, you know, we deal with it.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, I want to jump on that because I've twice now had video calls with people where I've had to walk around. You know, we have people who call and say, well, can I just come to the shop and take a look and figure out what I need? So instead of that, I have to, you know, FaceTime and walk around the shop and be like, well, this is a Kino Flow, this is an Astra, this is a Gemini, you know.
Right.
It's a very odd way of interacting.
Yes, yes. So Adam, what's happening at +1?
Yeah, so I guess we have about 38 people who are watching right now. So for those who don't know what we do at +1, we don't do grip and electric, we don't do camera, but we do everything in between. So everything else. So basically production, supply, rentals, that's what we specialize in. And, you know, even though the industry slowed down, we've tried to keep ourselves busy. You know, over the last months, we've reached out to our local elementary school down the street and found out that they needed help distributing food bank deliveries. And so that gave us an opportunity to use our equipment, like our tents and tables and cones and coolers. And so we were able to like set that stuff up every week for, you know, a month and a half, and then break it down, bring it back to the warehouse, and basically hammer out all of our COVID measures during that time. So I just have a quick little PowerPoint here, if I can just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through this really quick, but yeah, just wanted to kind of give everyone a rundown of our COVID-19 measures. And basically, I'm going to start with check-in, and the check-in basically happens in 3 different phases. So just as an overview, the first phase is disinfecting outside the warehouse with a 10-minute rest. And then we inspect the equipment and spot clean it outside the warehouse. And then third is bag and tag, where we put a seal. And actually the seal here is on the side of the PowerPoint. That's a sticker that we put on our equipment so that when it leaves the warehouse and goes out to a job, everybody knows that it's been sanitized. So that's an overview of check-in, but just to get into a little bit more detail, when a customer or when we bring back a Sprinter van full of equipment, we make sure that we spray it down with our atomizing foggers. We also got them from disinfectingsupply.com. And like Dan was mentioning, we use also the hypochlorous acid, and we mix it at 200 parts per million, which is the point at which it kills 99.9% of germs. So we spray down the inside of the Sprinter. Here you can see Kamal, our warehouse manager, spraying it down. We let it rest for 10 minutes. And then we bring it into our quarantine zone. This is the quarantine zone here, which is located right outside of our warehouse. That way, none of this equipment has to go inside. Nobody, and if a client is coming and dropping off any equipment, they don't have to bring it inside or anything. It just lands right here in the quarantine zone. And so once the equipment hits the quarantine zone, we have a process of separation. Basically, we separate equipment into two groups. Group one, stuff like tables and chairs, sandbags, stuff that we don't, we feel fine fogging over and over and over again. We're not really worried about exposure to condensation. Whereas group two, stuff like radios and walkie-talkies, MiFis, we hand wipe these. So we make sure that we have a different approach based on the equipment that we're disinfecting. So that's the disinfection phase. But you know, we also have our inspection and spot clean phase, which is really just what it was before. I mean, it's, you know, every rental house has their cleaning and inspection process. The only difference here is that, you know, we do it outside the warehouse now. So we disinfect, we let the 10-minute rest happen, and then we clean everything thoroughly and inspect it to make sure that it's presentable when it goes out. And then finally, we bag and tag. So some items will get a bag with a sticker on it. Sometimes the sticker will just go on the piece of equipment itself. But the basic idea is that, you know, when it goes out, you'll be able to see that sticker and you'll know that this equipment's safe to use. And then finally, with, you know, with our vehicles, with transportation and delivery, and of course, the Sprinter vans are part of the disinfection and inspection and spot cleaning phase. They pass through all of the same phases as our other equipment. We wipe down the front, we disinfect the back. And as far as last minute orders, how does that impact us with our process? Well, because we disinfect everything on check-in, it doesn't really hold up anything on checkout. So we can still do those last minute pickups, those last minute deliveries. I mean, of course, there are service fees that will still apply, but we can still do it, and we can do it ASAP because everything's already been disinfected. And then finally, just, you know, we have a bunch of new PPE equipment that we've added to our website, and, you know, just a few examples here. And we also have a disinfecting service. So if you don't want to rent like one of these foggers, which may look really intimidating, you can actually ask us to come on set, and we can show up before your shoot to disinfect. We can show up after your shoot to disinfect. I mean, if everyone's at the lunch, we could come during lunch and disinfect. So, so that's basically an overview of what we have been doing.
Great. And we also just want to make sure that you guys are trained in that equipment. People shouldn't rent it and throw that to the PA to do. Mm-hmm. So, well, thank you guys. We're so happy that you are doing all these measures to keep us safe. And we really, really appreciate it and appreciate your time. And now I'm going to chat with the ladies. We are now joined by Lindsey Meyer, costumer, and Tyra Loren, makeup artist. Both Lindsey and Tyra have been hosting their own Zoom meetings for Los Angeles-based crew, for them to have a place to share experiences and to be able to vent. Lindsey is a Los Angeles-based motion picture 705 costumer who has worked in the commercial world for 15 years. She loves the quick pace of her jobs that allow her to spend time with both her crew family and her 2 young kids and her line producer husband. Tyra is an IATSE Local 706 makeup artist for television, commercials, and celebrities, working both as a makeup department head on various shows as well as hundreds of commercials. Tyra is a strong, wonderful leader to her team's easygoing member of the crew and is always ready to run a smooth, efficient, and safe department. So let's start with your set experiences, and then we'll go into more departmental specific questions. So Lindsey and Tyra, we don't know each other. We've never worked together, unfortunately, but I do feel a connection with you because the 3 of us have feel this, that we have to rally our crews together to help get information out to them. On your Monday Zoom meeting, which I was on, I felt your passion for empowering our colleagues. So as you know, talent, makeup, and costumers are the most vulnerable people on set. while we're working during this global pandemic. So how's it been going?
Good. I guess I'll start first. So far, I've only worked a couple jobs, nothing major compared to what the normal workflow is. But so far, everything has felt as if everybody is trying their best. So I don't fault anybody that I have worked with. Everything has been up to par in terms of what they're attempting to do. The execution of things, you know, is going to falter. We're all learning. This is all just a brand new learning curve for everybody. So there's definitely been moments of, you know, head scratching and questionability. But I will start off with saying that so far everybody is working at doing their very best to keep us all safe.
I agree with that. I think there's so much preparation that so many people have put in with all the guidelines and, you know, just trying to anticipate what going back to work is going to look like. And I think that most of us went back to work much sooner than we thought that we were going to. I certainly thought it was going to be a year before we worked again. Adam, something that you said really resonated with me, that how you guys contacted local schools, which I think is incredible, but that you also use that as a learning tool to, because you really don't know until you're there and until you're doing it, and also how you feel when you're doing it, that you kind of don't know what your safety threshold is until all of a sudden you're experiencing it. So I love that you guys were actively out, not only helping your community, but also using it as a tool to really learn what are our best practices and what works and what doesn't work. And so I think that things like that really just, until you're out there doing it, you just don't really get a feeling for what it's going to be like. So, but I agree with Tara. It's been mostly okay, mostly good. I think that there's a lot of really good intentions and people trying really hard to do the right thing, but this is new and this is, I hate this word so much, unprecedented, but tired of hearing it. You know, this is just completely nothing anybody could have really truly prepared for.
Yeah. How have your emotions been running?
Speaking for myself, my anxiety level, and I don't consider myself an anxious person, is really high. And especially I've done 2 jobs. I've shot a total of 9 days and worked probably a total of 22 since we've reopened mid-June. And the anxiety of being in charge of other people is a lot, you know, making sure that you don't put other people in compromising positions. Again, despite my best intentions, I may not realize I'm asking somebody to do something outside their comfort level, or just because there's so many unknowns about this virus, that I may accidentally ask somebody to do something that's unsafe. And then, you know, the stress afterwards of, did I bring something home to my family? Did I bring something home to myself? So there's kind of this post-traumatic stress that I've never, you know, there's that normal feeling of relief at the end of a job, and now it's kind of the opposite of having to wait 5 or 6 days to go get tested, waiting kind of anxiously to hear did anybody else in your crew test positive. My husband coughed in the middle of the night and I shot out of bed thinking, oh my God, I gave him COVID. It's, you know, and that's again, like, I'm not a person who tends to go to 11 with things. So it's a lot. And I think it's something really important that people are aware of as they accept jobs and return to work, that it isn't just the normal, like, oh, I'm so happy to be with my foam family, that there's a lot of kind of loaded emotions that go with it.
Yeah, Tara?
Yeah, I can definitely second that for sure. After each of my jobs, I couldn't wait to get home and honestly just like take everything off and jump in a shower and clean off the day. And that's also not something that I normally would have ever felt the need to do. There is a little bit of an anxiety having gone from, 3-4 months of not having any human contact to suddenly on my very first job back in 3 days, I touched 12 people. So that was a little like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what we're doing. And as a makeup artist and somebody who deeply loves what I do, I can't bring that uncomfortable energy into the trailer. I have to act and feel for my talent as if this is completely normal, that wearing a face mask and wearing a shield and having an abundance of extra protocols is completely normal. And I've done it 100 times now and we're good, we're great, everything's wonderful. When inside I'm just like, okay, deep breaths. So it's putting on a hidden happy face and, just doing your job the same as normal, but also you know, internally knowing that there's so many more risks suddenly. Like I came into being a makeup artist to enjoy art and to play with colors and to make films and to make wonderful art and projects and maybe sometimes not so wonderful, but I didn't go into this job to be a nurse and feel so uncomfortable interacting with other humans. So
Yeah.
that's been
tough. How has crew morale been?
So far, okay. Everybody's happy to be working. It's, again, weird not being able to interact with one another based on the new zoning situation. So like when Lindsey and I worked together, we kind of really only had one another as well as maybe like 2 other people in our little pod zone that we were able to interact with. But I think overall, everybody's just happy to be working in some capacity and just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. Have you guys felt supported on set?
I would say yes, for the most part. I think, again, like I was saying earlier, everyone is really trying their best. And the best recommendation I could give would be to work with people that you already know and trust and that you can have an open dialogue with, because that's really people being willing to answer your questions and take the time to go through their safety protocols and what the companies are willing to do to make sure the crew is protected. That's absolutely vital and the most important thing before anybody even accepts a job. I'd be very hesitant to take anything from somebody that I didn't know at this point. So I think because of, at least for me, the choices of jobs that I've taken and the open dialogue I was allowed to have through that, I felt very supported and I felt very much like I was allowed to keep myself safe. I would say I still observed other behaviors that were unsafe from other people. You know, at a certain point, we all are making our own decisions once we get there. But I personally felt very supported and taken care of.
Good, good. Were you giving, you kind of touched upon this too, but have you been given clear, written out protocols and procedures from the production companies that you recently worked for?
For one, we did the 3-day union shoot that Tara and I did together. I mean, it must have been like as soon as somebody could shoot, we were shooting. So with that, I felt they were very clear with what the guidelines were. Every night, the AICP guidelines were sent out, as well as Appendix J, which is a document put out by the County of Los Angeles Health Department. Right now in LA, that's the only mandated document that needs to be followed. IATSE and AMPTF are still negotiating the actual contract that will move forward for film and television. Commercial workers, unfortunately, we don't have any sort of contract right now, which is really frustrating as we're already out shooting. But so we do have all these guidelines. Our unions have put out guidelines. But again, they're just guidelines. There's nothing enforceable in them. The zone system is not an enforceable document. All of that. So that's stuff that I think is really important that crew understands, and that we remember that, you know, even though all these things are promised and they go out every night and symptom checks and all that stuff, that things can fall apart really, really quickly.
Right, right. So Lindsey, there was a word that you said over and over the other night, and that was expectations. How have you been managing your expectations?
What I've really been trying to do is to be the one that goes to my clients, my producers, with a plan and saying, you know, this is the expectation of safety for my team. This is what I think that I can provide for you safely, that, you know, in terms of wardrobe for the fitting, that it should be done remote, that we'll still have wonderful options, but we won't have the 17 racks that you may be used to. And I bring everything back to safety every single time. It would not be safe for my team to be out in stores, or costume houses have new regulations for safety. So really managing the expectations for the people that I'm working with, asking that they pass it on with the client and the agency, so that we go in all understanding each other. I think that, you know, for agency client, especially if they're not traveling, it's very easy for them to expect things are just normal and we'll just go out and we'll perform the miracles that we perform every single day. And it's very, very important that we say very loudly and very clearly that this is not the same as it is. I will still give you the best that I can give during this time, but it's not going to be the same as before. And I think that we need to be very careful about promising the same service that we gave before, because service we gave before would not be safe. So really just managing other people's expectations of what I'm able to do and what any of us are able to do.
Right. Tyra, anything you want to add to that? Expectations?
Sorry, the dog's getting in my face. So far, yeah, I've kind of had the same discussions with everybody. In terms of the makeup side of things, we're always just like a little bit more hidden from production and directors and everybody anyway. We don't have that full-on interaction in pre-production. So there's a lot of what goes on in my trailer that they don't necessarily know anyway. So I definitely have my briefing and my conversation that I'll have with my producers and my directors regarding expectations. But for me, mostly it's just setting that precedent inside the trailer and with the AD that, you know, the trailer is a clean zone only for talent and myself and maybe our hairstylist if I'm not doing both hair and makeup on that particular job. So yeah, I'm definitely setting grounds for expectations, but in maybe a different way than Lindsey has to.
Great, great. So the other thing you stressed the other night was to advocate for yourself. Do not allow yourself to be taken advantage of at this time.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, that's something that we struggle with as an industry all the time, right? None of us want to rock the boat. We all want to be hired again. We want to be known as the easygoing person. And right now it's just not the time for that. And I think that the goal of our calls, the Safe Return to Set Zoom calls that we've done, is really to empower other crew members to speak up for each other and with each other and to know that they're not alone. I think that we tend to diminish our own anxieties and our own feelings, thinking like, oh, it's fine. Everybody's going back to work. There's essential workers out there every single day. And that's absolutely true. But what we're doing is not essential work. It's work that we love and we enjoy, and you know, eventually we do all have to go back to work, but in order for us to work, there needs to be safety protocols, and our concerns are still valid and our safety is still valid. And so really just advocating that you deserve to be paid your full rate, if not more. Absolutely. You're putting yourself in harm's way. And to really just take care of yourself and to know that we all need to voice our concerns and that they are valid, and to do it together so that nobody is the only one, you know, which is sometimes how I think Tara and I feel. We're like the ones ringing the fire alarm bell, but every single day we both get an email from, you know, you included, from somebody who is ringing the same bell with us. And the more collective voices we can put together, the more powerful it'll be.
Absolutely.
I'm going to touch on one thing that Lindsey just said. This morning, right before I got on this call, so unfortunately I didn't have a chance to read the entire article, but I saw something come through that our governor did just declare film workers essential.
Oh, interesting.
Which, yeah, so I want to go through and read that article. I haven't, I just saw the headline, another friend posted it, and then I jumped on here, so I do have to go back and find that, but I caught that headline and was a little like, whoa, okay, that's a new development.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is a headline. So, so let me throw you another word out from the other night. Communication, clear and open communication needs to happen in every aspect of film production.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll go for that. Sorry. Yeah, definitely communication. Without it, like I said, in terms of on set with the AD, that's my biggest person in that moment to communicate with, in terms of like workflow and time in between for sanitation, obviously communicating with producer ahead of time for what our protocols are going to be and back to those expectations. But I would say for the makeup department and hair department, communicating with the AD department is going to be our biggest hurdle, because they have to relearn how to time out the mornings to accommodate all of these new protocols.
Yeah, absolutely. You stressed that everyone has to have clear and manageable expectations. You have to advocate for yourself, and you have to speak up and be able to say, this is how we have to do it in this time of COVID. So Lindsey, on your last Zoom meeting, you told a story about an asymptomatic crew member. I think it was a makeup artist, maybe.
Mhm.
Can you please share that story with us?
Yeah, so Appendix J, which I mentioned earlier, the guidelines for reopening in Los Angeles they give a loophole for testing that commercial workers don't have to test. And I know that a lot of people feel because we work so quickly that there's just not time to test and the technology's changing all the time. And what if somebody stops at the grocery store on the way home and then their results are null and void? I view all these things as stopgap. Like the temperature check isn't going to check everybody or going to catch every person that may have COVID. But testing certainly is helpful and I believe should be mandatory. On the 6-day shoot that I did, testing was not a requirement. A lot of us just went because free testing is widely available in Los Angeles, luckily. So a lot of us went and self-tested. And one of the makeup artists a day before the shoot discovered she was asymptomatic positive. She's somebody that I know. She's somebody that I've worked with a lot. I know that I would have been in close contact with her. She would have been in contact with 24 Talent and of course all the crew. I was speaking with a friend last night. She was on a job where 5 crew members tested positive. A costumer in my commercial group was on a music video shoot in which 13 members tested positive.
Wow.
So those were both shoots in which testing was mandatory in order to go onto the job. But it's incredibly alarming. And the more I was thinking about it last night with the friend with the news of the 5 people, that commercial members should be more it should be tested more. We are in contact with so many people. If you think, for the grip department, for the sound department, people who are mostly performing their job just on set, they could be on 5 different sets in a week. And how many crew are you exposing yourself to? So the more we're testing people, the more we're protecting the next job. So you can't think of it as just my job is so fast, we can't test. By testing people on your job, you're also protecting the next job. So if we can kind of create this community of testing, we're protecting everybody as a whole.
Yes, yes. Okay, so now some questions more specific to your trades, and let's start with wardrobe first. So how's your process been starting with like your normal directives when you're getting them? Anything to report on that?
So far I've been lucky that we've received casting really early. I mean, that's a must. So I was able to shop both my jobs online. It's difficult. Shipping delays are pretty big. We were still receiving wardrobe throughout our whole wrap. And then stuff going back, getting refunds is taking a lot longer. Costume houses are back open here. They really limit the amount of people who can come through. So you have to make an appointment 24 hours ahead. So it's really something to keep in mind. There's no like last minute after a fitting running out and getting something. Also stores often still have lines to get in. Stores are closing earlier. So it's really a retraining of how to prep the jobs. With my one job, I set the expectation that we would do the fitting remotely, and I kind of set up the rules of how we would do that. My next job, we did a show and tell of the wardrobe and then just a morning of fitting. So really just communicating again and again ways to do things and kind of getting ahead of it before anybody dictates to me how you're gonna do it. 'Cause I think everybody's relieved to have somebody with a plan. So that's kind of how prep has felt good because I can really control it.
Yeah. Have you been out to any stores or no? You're pretty much just
very, very limited. And a big reason is because I didn't feel comfortable basically telling my assistant they were then had to go back into that store to return things. I didn't really feel that if I could avoid it, I didn't feel like I had a right to put my assistants in that situation. Plus the situation of whether or not LA is open or closed feels very fluid. So I also didn't want to be put in a position where I had thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and indoor stores have closed since we've gone back to work. So there are people who've been stuck with stuff.
wow.
So just kind of trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And do you feel that you've given they've been giving you enough time to shop and also sanitize the wardrobe? And how have you been sanitizing or disinfecting the wardrobe?
I haven't worried about sanitizing the wardrobe when we receive it since it's all been shipped, and I figure it's been, my assistants and I, we prepped out of my garage, so we keep everything open. We have a box fan, so there's constantly circulation. I keep 70% alcohol in a continuous sprayer. So we spray high contact areas often because the 70% won't hurt the clothes. Just basic for ourselves and our team, basic hygiene. I make sure there's lots of hand sanitizer. I mean, our first stop for both jobs was Target right when they opened to get all the wipes and the hand sanitizers and soap. And so for that, I felt really good with everything. When I get to set and there's, racks and steamers and equipment set up by somebody else, first thing that my team does is we stop and we clean everything. I bring all my own supplies. The first job I thought for sure I'd walk into a motorhome just stocked with Lysol, because it's quite easy not to get COVID when you think about it. You clean and you wash your hands. And I thought these easy supplies would be available, and there was nothing. I mean, there was hand washing stations and things like that, but for just that kind of upkeep throughout the day. So I really would recommend people, unfortunately prepare yourself to have your own stuff, which it should all be paid for by production still.
Sure. Has your budget been different?
No, I would say not really. One was a cost plus, the other is always kind of an okay, but so I would say COVID related expenses, I was okay on both those jobs, but that was just kind of the nature of the jobs. I'm definitely hearing from people that there's smaller budgets. I don't think that that's, people try to say, oh, well, we're in a pandemic, whatever, I don't think that that's an excuse. I think that if people want to be advertising or filming right now, that there's just an added cost to that. And that's in our rate, that's in the supplies, that's in the time it's going to take. Wrap has taken exponentially longer. I mean, not twice as long, 4 times as long. And so that we did struggle with on the first job. That was a lot of having to explain and, making you feel crazy, like, are we doing something wrong? And it's like, no, it takes so much longer.
Yeah. On set, did you have your own space or did you have a shared space?
I had my own space for the most part. On the shoot that Tara and I were on, we had a base camp. So I let her have all the interior of the motorhome and we set up outside, and we only used the wardrobe half for changing. So felt good about that. On the 6-day shoot, it was agreed upon that I would have my wardrobe truck, and that was kind of our safe space. And then if we needed any extra space, I brought my own pop-up tents, which we labeled sanitized, unsanitized, and we would have the sanitation crew come over and sanitize them between every cleaning, which worked out really well. We could also kind of hit it with the 70% spray bottle in the high contact zipper areas and stuff like that. And all of that's a retraining. You're not used to, after every person coming out, having to flip a tag, and but once you get into the rhythm of it, and I tried to communicate really clearly with the talent what was going on. One of the first moments we were on set in the motorhome with talent the first day, somebody was like, here's my bag, where do I put my stuff? And I sort of panicked, like, my head knows I'm not going to get COVID most likely handling somebody's bag, but where does talent's personal clothing go? So for the second job, I went and got a bunch of cheap laundry bags and just had one for every talent, and communicated ahead of time that this is your personal safe space. It's labeled with your name. You take it home at the end of the day. Also getting pre-approval for them to keep the wardrobe, so that I'm not having to handle anything again at the end. For any rental items, I have a laundry bag that they handle everything. So just really trying to minimize extra touches, the things that I don't need to be involved with, I'm not going to be. So that's their personal items to the clothing they wear, everything.
Yeah, really smart. Good tips. So anything different in your kit besides the normal mask, gloves, sanitizers, all that, or anything else?
I sort of kitted out my own set chair so that I had my own personal safe space. Although another one of the funny, what do you do moments, a talent was getting wired up and he just casually tossed his jacket onto my chair, and Tara and I both looked at each other, and I was like, well, I need to light the chair on fire now. And it's, it's hard because it's just this natural human moment. And then there's just so many emotions involved when, somebody does just this normal, totally fine otherwise gesture. But I was like, my safe space has been violated. Making sure you have an iPad or something in order to do Q-Take or whatever, remote video viewing platform you can get onto, so that, because if you're not right on set, with our first job, we had the zone system, so we were not allowed on set. My second job, it was much looser, but I approached the director at the beginning and said, I will be outside. It's not for lack of wanting to be involved with what's going on. It's because you don't need my COVID in this room. I'm one less body that doesn't need to be in here. And so I, either hopefully production set it up, or you go find someone and to just have your iPad, have an extra charger, to kind of just create your own space. Again, your own hand sanitizing, your own wipes, it's very hard to stay hydrated with a mask on for 12 hours. So make sure that you have water that's easy to drink. But yeah, other than just kind of creating a personal space, I would say my kit's mostly the same.
Do you have big signs? Do not touch the racks.
No, but I have thought about it, and I communicated very clearly with, on this last job directly to the client, since we kind of do the show and tell and stuff together, that again, it's like this natural thing to touch, to look, whatever. And so I said, please, in order to minimize the amount of people who are interacting with this stuff, and again, to bring it back to safety, I ask that you don't touch anything and that you let only my department handle things.
Right. Was the talent cooperative about, are they tweaking themselves? Are you able to run in and do any adjustments like you used to?
We would have, for the first job, we would have people come out off of set to do any touch-ups that we needed to do. I ran into a situation on the first job where the actor got completely sweaty, and normal days I'd be like, oh, take off the sweater, hair blow dry it out. And it was one of those first moments where I was like, can you hair blow? Like, am I just sending COVID into the entire set? I don't know what to do. So I just sort of let it ride, and he just stayed sweaty. So kind of being prepared for what to do in those situations. But talent, I would say, is, in my experience with the, I guess now 30 some odd talent, they're a little loose on the masks. They're kind of like so happy to be back. And then of course, when they're shooting and their masks off, it's hard for them to remember to put a mask back on. So what I started doing by my second shoot is every night emailing all the talent, reminding them to bring their own comfort clothes that they would not be provided, cover up for lunch, jacket, whatever they might need, telling them about the personal bag that I'd have for them and to please use it. But at the top of the email, it says a mask will be worn at all times unless makeup asks you to take it off or you're actively shooting, and there's no exceptions to this. I then, the first thing in the morning when I see them, I then reiterate all that information over again. So, when they're trying on clothes, whatever, they'll pop back out and be like, oh, you need to take my picture. Of course, I don't have a mask on. And so just, it makes you feel crazy, but just saying it over and over and over and over, because it's really relearning. It's like relearning how to ride a bike backwards.
Yeah. So kind of like last question. So have you worked with any children or seniors that might need more like assistance from you?
I haven't, but a good friend of mine, she just did one of the first in-person fittings, and she said that was her most surprising moment, when there was an older gentleman who was wearing his mask up here, and he needed help getting, his shoes tied, getting suspenders on, all these things. And so all of a sudden, so she'd had this perfectly planned out fitting. It was outside, it was lots of time between talent, they had enough labor, and then all of a sudden she's like up close helping this man that doesn't have, and it's as simple as it is to tell somebody to put a mask on, it does make you feel uncomfortable, and it does make you feel like you're maybe telling somebody like, oh, I know better than you. And then what if that person doesn't believe in the efficacy of a mask, or doesn't believe that it's serious? So it can kind of put you into an uncomfortable situation pretty quickly.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add before we get to Tyra?
No, I think that we've about covered it. I'm happy to answer any further questions, people. I'll put my email in the chat. So certainly if anyone has anything specific, I'm more than happy to talk to them.
Great. And when we get finished with Tyra Patrick's monitoring questions, we could do a little Q&A at the end. So hi, Tyra. Thanks for being here. As a makeup artist, you're one of the ones that are the most upfront and personal with the talent who are unmasked. So how's it been going? We kind of said a little bit at the beginning, but.
Yeah, I did touch upon that a little bit about having to feel comfortable no matter how I'm actually feeling on the inside. So in terms of some of my prep and rep, like Lindsey was talking about, one thing that I noticed very quickly on my very first job back was the level of prep time to set my kit. So normally before a job, I set my kit no matter what. That's a normal standard thing. However, with all the new protocols and wanting to do kind of similar to what Adam's company is doing in terms of making things look visibly sanitized and closed off to and other contaminants, I then went through, and after washing my brushes and letting them dry, I put all these little like specific covers over them so that on first look you see that they are not open, they are not touching anything else, that they are all individually wrapped essentially. And then instead of having all my brushes in like a big giant brush roll that I used to keep them in, where they do all touch one another after they're cleaned, they've now been separated into much smaller little groupings. So if I only have 2 talent that day, I only need to pull out 2 little brush pouches and I have everything I need. Everything else stays clean and contaminant free. A lot of my onset protocols are still the same. I'm very clean and sanitary as it is. So the additional was just having that time in between talent to sanitize the set, to sanitize my station and to reset everything in the 10-15 minute window that all of our products take. That's probably the biggest hurdle that nobody's gonna be used to right away for sure. But yeah, my prep and my wrap time to reset my kit is definitely going to be a point of discussion. And I think that should be for all hair, makeup, and even probably props and plenty of other departments that may not have gotten a whole lot of prep time before, that it's going to need to be budgeted somewhere for us. Either, you know, put it at the back end of our day and give us extra OT, give us a prep day, give us a wrap day. It's got to be compensated somewhere in order for us to be providing the most clean and sanitary kit. There's a good amount of our products that, regardless of COVID or whatever, hold bacteria and stuff more than others. So those are just things that, as a working artist, we have to be more vigilant and diligent about as it is.
Right. How have both of you guys been suiting up?
Well, my union requires us to wear mask and a face shield. Gloves are optional. So for myself, I've just done the face shield and the mask. I haven't done gloves. However, I've had them out on my station in case any talent might feel the need to ask me or would prefer that I wear them. But I sanitize and baby wipe my hands a million times even on a normal basis. So that again is just something I'm used to doing. I, you know, wipe down everything before I touch. Nothing is being like dipped into. Every single thing is being scraped out onto a palette, a paper palette, so that all of it can be thrown away at the end of each talent. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of reusable items for right now.
Yeah. Lindsey, how are you suiting up?
Pretty much same thing. I wear a K95 mask that I'm really careful to fit really well onto my face. I have to knot behind the ears just a little bit, really, you know, just making sure you get a really nice seal. And I alternate it out every day, and then keep it on my dashboard to disinfect in the sun and kind of rotate between 3 of them. And then a face shield when I'm steaming or doing anything that might have, you know, a vapor coming off of it, or certainly if I was going near unmasked talent. I wear eyeglasses just to kind of close off all the things, and a big hat. And then like Tara touched on earlier, as soon as I get home, it's like a strip straight into the shower, and it just like mentally is a nice kind of scrub away the day, scrub into a clean environment. So yeah, just to kind of the basic safety stuff. I don't wear gloves. I think, you know, gloves get just as dirty as your hands do. So I just choose to wash my hands often.
Great. How's the talent been feeling? Or do they feel safe? Is it business as usual? Or are they anxious?
Felt like business as usual for them. Yeah, again, you don't know what people are feeling internally. You can only judge by, you know, the outward person they're giving you. But it seems like everybody's just, you know, like we all are, happy to be back to work, happy to be interacting with other humans and the people we've been stuck with in our own houses for months and months and months. So overall, you know, but maybe almost too comfortable, because I definitely had that same issue of like, why don't you just put your mask back on? Like, you're not going to mess up my makeup. I can do all the touch-ups I need to do. Trust me, I'm setting everything just fine. Put it on. Just please put it on.
Yeah, that sometimes even I had a situation where I asked an actress to put her mask on. You know, she kind of like darted out to tell me something. I was just taking a breather out at my truck, and so I threw my mask on really quickly, and I said, you know, can you please, you know, keep yourself safe, put your mask back on. And she sort of joked that, oh, well, I'm a trainer at such and such gym, I probably have it anyway. And I was like, you're clearly not understanding that this is for me just as much as it is for you. And now I'm totally horrified. And it's hard to kind of be this battle axe that's constantly like, no, child, now put your mask back on. This is for both of us. But yeah, there's definitely the talent has all seemed very comfortable. In fact, I've been shocked. I wouldn't take off my mask in an enclosed room. I won't even stay in an enclosed room with a mask on. So I've been really surprised at people's willingness to.
Yeah. Tyra, has it been harder applying makeup with the shield and the mask on?
Yeah. I will totally fess up to something really dumb I did on the very first day of working with the face shield on, and that was I did not realize there was a clear plastic film over the front of those face shields, and I left it on for the first time, and I was like, why is it so blurry? And it wasn't until I took a moment to actually read the top that says remove plastic film. So that was my dumb moment on day one. But yeah, that thing fogs up like crazy. I've been trying to figure out some alternatives to it. I've been doing some painting around my house. So I've been trying different safety goggles in terms of, you know, what's gonna work. If it's working here while I'm painting, it should work while I'm on set doing somebody's makeup. So yeah, I've been trying different alternatives to the face mask because I don't see that one as a long-term sustainable option. I'm sorry, the face shield. The mask is fine. I'm totally used to the mask. I walk my dog in it, I work out in it, no big deal. I'm used to the mask by now, but that face shield, oof, not loving that.
I bet. How long is it taking a lot longer to get the talent through the works?
No, because they're really not allowing for more time in the chair anyway, and because our safe standards from our union are really hitting on that 6 feet, 10 minutes, 6 feet, 10 minutes. So, you know, of course, doing a makeup in 10 minutes is really unrealistic, but just getting it done as quickly and concisely as possible is kind of the goal right now. And I think everybody realizes that, again, those expectations of perfection are going to be put to the side for a little while right now, and just to get things to a good point, camera ready, make them look nice, and then, you know, go from there.
Yeah. All right. Have the ADs been pestering you?
Not any more than normal.
Good. Any other tips and tricks, you guys?
I think it's just getting there, really, I mean, talking to people who've been there, which is what we're all doing. And certainly not any one of us has the answer or has had all the experiences, but collectively we've all seen a lot and we're all seeing different things. Tara and I think we had an incident on our first job where we realized that the vans weren't being sanitized and the motorhome wasn't being sanitized. So again, it's like we had these amazing guidelines, but then it wasn't executed and it wasn't done. And then touching on what you said earlier about communication, that it was communicated that one person was supposed to do it and they never did, you know, just a million different things. So that was kind of the thing that we saw during that job, and we went and tried to handle. Something we haven't talked about is the COVID compliance officers, which basically across the board, every issue we've heard about on set has all come down to something that a strong COVID compliance officer could help to deal with. Unfortunately, that position hasn't really been empowered. There's no set regulation of training, medical background or otherwise. It could literally be a PA, it could be somebody off the street that took an 1.5 hour long training. So really, you know, just making sure that there's somebody on set who's making sure that people are in compliance with whatever set of guidelines your production has decided to go with, that there needs to be somebody there enforcing it. And that person needs to not be beholden to production, but to just this higher standard of safety. And I forget where else I was going with that, but yeah, the compliance officer. It's a really important role.
We've talked a lot about that over the last other 5 webinars. Tyra, are you sanitizing everything? Are you using more disposable items now?
Yeah, definitely more disposable items than I would have chosen to in the past. And again, yes, sanitizing every single little thing that, you know, if it gets opened on my station, then it gets sanitized. I am trying to do a really good job of keeping everything zipped up and closed, though, to then reduce the amount that I have to worry about re-sanitizing. So as long as it stays closed and not contaminated, then I feel like the stuff is okay. I am definitely using a lot of things from like pump bottles and squeeze bottles. I've cut all the applicators out of every single thing so that there's never a question that something is getting dipped back into a product, like any lip glosses that have wands or mascara, all of that's just been cut out. I dip in spatulas and things that can either be disposed of or re-sanitized into all of my products. Nothing is getting double dipped, nothing's getting overused. It's all just one and done, or one and cleaned and put away.
Yeah, yeah. I know the makeup artists here bring a lot of stuff to set. So have you pared everything down? Have you scaled back your kit a bit, or are you bringing more?
I haven't done either yet. I went through and reorganized everything and relabeled everything, but I didn't feel like yet I could make those decisions. I want to work a few more jobs to kind of see what I'm using more of or what I'm not using, and that can be eliminated from my onset kit. But I always feel the need to have an abundance of everything, like I'm sure most people in my department do, especially on commercials where we're sort of a one-stop shop for everything. It's a little different when I do TV, where we have our home base of a trailer and everything lives in the trailer at all times.
Right.
So yeah, on commercials, I definitely feel the need to have everything. And I have yet to have that moment of like, oh, I don't need this now. And I definitely have just kept things as it is for now.
Do you feel that people have been respecting your space?
Yeah, again, it's just that whole figuring out at the start of a job who's allowed into the trailer, reminding the 8D that, they can't just pump talent in and out the way we used to. Like Lindsey said, the personal items, that was always something for me that was cumbersome in our small spaces as it was, is when talent brings in their laptop bags or their backpacks or puts their coffee on my station or their phones on my station. So now eliminating those things is definitely necessary. Again, I know in my union guidelines, it is clearly stated that nothing goes on to a makeup station anymore, right, but our products, like absolutely no talent, anything. So
yeah. That's great. And do you feel that the production companies are doing everything to create a safe environment for you and the talent?
I think they are doing the best of their abilities at this time, given what we know and given the guidelines they've been handed. But I think really nailing down if those are going to be guidelines or contractual obligations is going to be the next big step for our unions and production companies.
Yeah, great.
I also, sorry, I wanted to add that, a producer and AD department or the production team in the AD department already had full jobs with incredibly overworked and overloaded schedules and expectations. And so to pile something of this magnitude on top of it and say, oh, well, that's production's problem, or that's the AD department's problem, they're in charge of safety, something's going to give. Either equipment's not going to show up or a different safety matter is going to fall through the cracks. So really thinking before we kind of put all the onus on production or on the AD department, that this is something bigger than them, and that, they're not medical professionals, they're not epidemiologists, they're not virologists. So they're just as kind of up on all this as the rest of us. So really, again, back to that COVID compliance officer and creating somebody who really is the expert on this.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 11:30. Are you guys okay for a little bit? Should we just see if there's any, Patrick, is there any questions?
Okay.
I feel like
so
we
far
covered.
These guys are so fascinating and have been so great at answering questions via chat. Oh, wait, here comes a question. Let me see what we say. What do we got here? Let's see. Are safety management companies, I guess meaning the, like we've discussed prior, are any of these been working on any of the jobs that you guys have done? That's a good question.
Yes, there have been quite a few companies that have miraculously appeared in the last couple months. A lot of them are really, really good, and they're working hard to make sure their compliance officers have medic or RN backgrounds. What other different, you guys sounds like have done webinars on the different chemicals that are being used and all that stuff. So, they have the fogger machines and all that. The companies are kind of rapidly growing. One told me he's worked 31 days and 29 days. So I think they're very, very busy. So I think there's a couple companies that are really effective and doing really well. They're working on getting testing and all of that stuff. There's also going to be just as many people that are opportunists that are, you know,
Right.
ordered something on Amazon and they're showing up on set demanding a rate. We had a compliance assistant on our first job who was not effective, who 3 weeks later was emailing around production companies calling himself a supervisor, demanding a very high rate. And luckily we'd been vocal enough that that production company checked the name with me. But, you know, it's hard because there's, for every good, there's 10 bad. So we had on my second job, there was a sanitation company, the head of which, you know, named himself the compliance officer. They were very, very good on sanitation, very bad on compliance. So it's, you kind of don't know until you're there, but they definitely exist.
Tara, same question for you. Have you had any experience with, I guess, compliance companies or cleaning companies or on your sets?
Yeah, they've definitely been there. And same kind of echoing what Lindsey said is like, nobody really knows what the position fully entails yet. So I think it's a little bit of a wild card right now. The efforts are there, the intentions are there, the execution needs to be nailed down.
Yeah. Anything else, Patrick, or should we try to wrap it up?
Let me see. Here's one more question. Nope, that's it. That's the same. That's still on the thing. I guess you can go ahead and wrap it up.
Thank you, Tara and Lindsey, for being here. We really appreciate you getting up early and being with us. So,
Thank you guys. Nice to meet everybody on the East Coast.
yeah. So our personal and professional lives have been turned upside down as we venture back into production. We are going to have to be easy on ourselves and look out for each other and realize that some may be struggling more than others. Our film community has been rocked before. On February 20th, 2014, our film community was shocked to learn that a 27-year-old camera assistant, Sarah Jones, was tragically killed on set. That day, the Safety for Sarah movement, including Slates for Sarah, was born, which sparked a global phenomenon. It quickly became an industry-wide outpouring of love. Yeah, all of you on this webinar were a part of that movement. Then a group of industry veterans formed a group, a pledge to Sarah, to encourage film professionals to sign a pledge to dedicate themselves to promoting safe sets. And it also included a promise that we would never forget Sarah. Yep, all of you on this webinar were a part of it. Now that amount of dedication to set safety needs to surface again. So I leave off where I started, a call to action, to a simple pledge to our film community that we will follow all COVID safety practices and protocols. Please continue discussions and share information. On set, if you see something, say something. Remember that our goal is to keep each other safe and healthy so we can remain working during this global pandemic. I can't work without you. We all need each other more than ever. I hope these webinars were helpful. Thanks to all the guests for your time and expertise. And I want to thank you all for watching. That alone demonstrates that you are already committing to the health and welfare of your fellow crew members. So let's keep this momentum going. Be well and be safe. And I hope to see you on set in the very near future. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Caprice.
Thank you, Caprice. Good job. Appreciate it.